All right, here we are on episode 2 of the River of Fire Damascus build. Um, Also, along with that, we're going to do a feather Damascus build. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. I threw this one in, threw the feather one in just because the forge is hot and I had the steel ready to go. So get a 2-for-1 on this. Anyway, next in line is to cut and restack the River of Fire and the feather billet and get them in the forge and do another forge weld. So let's get to it. So I have the River of Fire billet cut up, restacked, ready to weld. And you can see that middle run of 1095 that meanders back and forth down the billet. So if you stack it wrong on this one, if I take this one out and flip it over, you should be able to see what I'm talking about when you stack it wrong. So I'll go back in there. There, now you can see that it runs, makes an S right here, and then it starts back over here and makes another S, and they don't match up. So it's an S and an S and then an S. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you stack it correctly every time. So that pattern runs, meanders down the billet. Here is the restack of the River of Fire, ready to go back into the forge for its third forge weld. The feather billet going into the fire. Here is the River of Fire billet, and it is cooling off to be ready to cut and restack as soon as it's cool. And you'll see what the pattern looks like as soon as it cools off. here is the river of fire after one cut and stack. And it looks like it's going to turn out to be more of a zigzag than kind of a wandering down the blade, which could be cool. Never done this one before, so I'm sure I'm not doing it exactly right, but you can see that. Looks pretty good. Okay, so since we've got this all forged out again, we need to clean up the edges and then we'll cut it up. This probably be the last time. The pattern looked like it was getting pretty tight. So we'll clean it up, restack, forge weld it together, and go from there. So I about made a mistake. I cut this up into 5 pieces, just like I had been doing before, and it hit me when I was welding one side together that I need to stack it taller. The reason is we're going to stack it tall and we'll cut slivers off of it to make the knives out of. So I'm going to cut each of these pieces in half. I've got to grind this weld off there. I'm going to cut each of those pieces in half and stack it up taller and forge weld it together that way, and we will let that cool off and I'll grind the face and see what our pattern looks like. So I forgot to put my mic on again. And anyway, so here I'm showing you the billet as it stands right now. It's got it's stacked 10 high, and so when it's stacked that high, you have to be really careful that you don't shift it off to one side or the other when you're forge welding it back together. So I decided that I was going to use my press. It's a lot slower and I can be more controlled with it than I can with my power hammer. Here we go into the press with the tall stack, and you can see how it would be pretty easy for that to shear off to one side or the other. They're really hard to fix when they do that. So just a quick press on top and bottom. Want to keep the billet really hot. Second time in the press, still keeping it really hot. It's at forge welding temperature right now just to make sure that those are set good. And it wanted to get a little bit of a wiggle to it, so I decided to press it down on the sides just to straighten everything out so it didn't get out of hand. You can see how slow my press runs, but it works really good. It's just kind of slow. But we got her straightened out. I'm going to go right back in the fire to keep her hot. At this point, I was going to use my power hammer because you lose a lot less heat using the hammer versus the press. And when I pulled my press out, I yanked the plug-in off the cord for my power hammer, so I had to quick fix that and then back to running again with the power hammer. Okay, so we got the power hammer up and running again, and at this point I had cut the handle off of the side of the billet and ground all the welds off of the sides just so I didn't push those down in there, and then I could work all sides of the billet. So I'm just working it real light so not to split those welds, the forge welds. So just working it real light, working it really hot, not letting it cool down too much at all. Just want to keep those forge welds together as much as I can. So I just realized I didn't have my mic on. Anyway, we're going to keep working this billet super hot. We don't want to work it cold at all. We could shear those forge welds apart. Anyway, because we forge welded it this way, and now we're turning it on its side and we're spreading that out, and that can just peel those forge welds apart. We're almost done with it, so we'll get to take a peek at the pattern here pretty quick. So as it cools, I'm going to take a grinder to it, and we should be able to see the pattern a little bit anyway, showing through on that. So as it turns out, you're not going to be able to see it until it cools off and I can etch it a little bit. So that's going to do it for today's video. We will finish the feather billet on the next one. It'll be part 3, I think, and that should be the end of this series. I'll throw a couple pictures after that cools off of the pattern once I can grind it a little smoother and etch it a little bit. But thanks for sticking around, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a good one. So here's a look at the pattern. You can see that 1095 zigzagging back and forth down the billet. You can see the crushed W's on the side. So kind of cool. Not exactly what I was going for, but I think it's going to look really sweet once I cut a sliver of that off. So I'll cut a sliver off and forge a knife out of it. And yeah, it turned out pretty cool.